I'm Vashi Kapelos if you're just joining us now, and you are watching CBC News special coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. As we speak here in Ottawa, negotiations are underway between the government and opposition parties over a proposed $82 billion aid package that would help Canadians, that is aimed at helping Canadians affected by this crisis. Tens of thousands have been laid off as businesses are ordered closed and Canadians self-isolate in their homes, as we just heard from Deborah. Ford and General Motors are among the companies that have suspended operations in this country, which means no pay for many of those auto workers. Jerry Dias is the president of Unifor. He joins me, I think, by Skype from Toronto. Hey, Jerry, nice to see you.
Always good to see you, Vashi.
So let's talk about the need here. We've seen the headline after headline, layoffs after layoffs. From your perspective, I know you represent a lot of workers in this country. How bad is this? How dire have things become?
Well, we're an organization of over 300,000 members. At least 2/3 are on layoff today, so it is dire. And that's why our members, like other Canadians, are at home watching television tonight and watching the Keystone Cops in Ottawa, wondering when this was going to get fixed. The aid, the significant aid package was really announced on the 18th of March. It's almost a week ago, and still no money. We have workers in, part-time, precarious, non-standard jobs across the country that are desperate need of this money. And while things are being held up for procedural matters, people are just shaking their heads and saying, what the heck is going on here today?
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, because I spoke to leaders of both the NDP and the Conservatives. And my impression is, to them, this isn't just procedural, that they were taken by surprise, that there's stuff in this bill that they were not told to expect. It's stuff that goes beyond the aid that, you're absolutely right. So many people, the people you represent, other Canadians really, really need right now. They all seem to really want to get that aid out the door. And I think, they're genuine in expressing that. But do those parties, they see this as the stuff the Liberals are introducing as a threat to democracy. Do they have a point there?
Well, they may. It depends on what the Liberals have put forward. If, in fact, they were trying to ram things through without talking to anybody, that was a bad move. So they need to move off that fairly quickly. But the key issue here is the $82 billion aid. Simply put, we're a $1.6 trillion economy. The $82 billion doesn't really do it. We should be talking about is the $55 billion in tax deferrals. Is that what we should be doing today? Are companies investing today? No. A lot of companies today are looking to survive. What they need is support, operational capital. They need to find a way to keep the doors open. They need to find a way to pay their bills. And like I said, we need to have a discussion about whether or not it's enough. Take a look at other countries around the world. Take a look at the UK, take a look at Spain, Germany. They're spending about 16% of their GDP on figuring out how we move forward, getting money in people's pockets. The UK, other countries around the world are putting in 80% lost wages in people's pockets, and we're still sitting with an EI plan that pays 55%. So we got to get rolling with the times here. We're in trouble.
I want to pick up on that point, because we've heard a number of various organizations as well as politicians say that 10% is too low. The government has signaled that they're open to more, but they're not yet specific on a timeline. Can you explain to me from your vantage point what you think the government needs to do? Is it 80%? Is it, tomorrow? What do you think?
Well, progressive governments around the world are doing everywhere between 75 and 90%, and we should be in that ballpark. No question about it. The key thing is we're going to get through this eventually, and we need to make sure that we have an economy that's strong. We need to make sure that the companies are strong to hire people. We need to make sure that workers have jobs to get back to. So there's a lot in play here. We have to deal with the issues of today, and we have to deal with the issues of tomorrow. But clearly, working class people need money today in order to survive. And listen, working class people, even during this time period, will invest in the economy, and they need to make sure that they have the money in order to do that.
Have you had any conversations, Jerry, with the government? I know they've consulted you on a number of matters, including, for example, all the NAFTA negotiations. Has this been a subject of conversation between the government and you?
Absolutely. I've spoken to many ministers. I've spoken to the Prime Minister's office. I would like to say that we've had a fair bit of input as it relates to the measures that have already been laid out. But like I said, this looked good on the 18th of March. I'm not so sure that based on what's transpired in the last week, it looks all that great today.
Can we talk a bit about the timeline as well? Because we're looking at, early April at best for some of those expanded EI measures. Other things like the Canada Child Benefit or the GST credit will likely come even later than that. What kind of timelines do you think the people you represent need to see, or do you think phase 2 needs to come very soon?
Phase 2 needed to come yesterday. People are in real trouble today. I mean, we have a lot of members we have some high wage earners, and we have some members in our union that don't make a heck of a lot. They're in the retail, hospitality sectors of the union. Frankly, we have a lot of members in the healthcare sector and in the grocery stores that don't make a heck of a lot of money either. So, but our members that are laid off are expecting money immediately. But I'm thinking about those workers in the hospitality sector that have been laid off now for weeks. I'm thinking about the hotel workers that have been laid off for weeks and don't make a heck of a lot more than minimum wage. And they are expecting money now. So yes, childcare, all those things are so important to get us through this difficult time, but we can't be waiting months. We have a system that's broken, and it's clear. When it takes us this long to react to get money in people's pockets, then we need to do something differently. The government should be saying to companies that can afford it, listen, pay your employees, keep them on payroll, and we'll pay you back. There has to be different ways. We need to be creative at a time that we are in dire need of answers, because there's a lot of questions, but not a lot of answers. And we need to move forward, and we need to move forward aggressively. Before
I let you go, I just want to ask you for a bit of context. I've interviewed you on so many different subjects. I know that you've been active throughout other recessions, other downturns in the economy. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Nothing like this at all. We lived through SARS, 9/11. I'm thinking about the dramatic drop in oil prices, the impact that had on so many industries. But I've never seen anything like this. And now is a time for leadership, and now is a time for decisive action. And we don't need the aid being held up because we can't get our collective act together in Ottawa. So let's move forward and get money in people's pockets.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thanks so much, Jerry. Appreciate your time as always.
Thank you, Vashi.
The head of Unifor, Jerry Dias. CBC News special coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, we'll continue. Just to bring you a brief update, Jerry was talking about what's unfolding here in Ottawa at this hour. Political parties are currently engaged in negotiations. A bit of procedural stuff just happened. They were able to extend the hours in which the House of Commons is sitting so that those negotiations can continue. Hopefully that means they will eventually arrive at an agreement. And so the bill that will allow the financial aid that Jerry Dias, Dan Kelly, and others tonight have been talking about, so that that bill goes ahead and that aid can get out the door as soon as possible. As I mentioned, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but we're back in just a moment. I'm Vashi Kapelos, and this is CBC News.
For breaking news and COVID-19 updates, CBC News Network is now free.